Welcome to the Peel. I'm your host, Turner Novak, founder of Banana Capital. Today's guest is Stephen Fabre, co-founder and CEO of Liveblocks. Liveblocks builds tools that help incorporate AI into your product. And Stephen is one of my smartest friends on how people are actually using AI on a day-to-day basis. We talked about what most people get wrong when trying to build AI-native software, how to treat it as more than just a copilot that sits on top of your product, and what he's learned about how large enterprises are actually buying and using AI right now. We also talked through the journey of evolving Liveblocks from pre-built real-time human collaboration components, what he's learned going from a designer to a CEO, and how he rebuilt the company after his co-founder stepped away. A quick reminder that I publish 2 episodes of The Peel every week. Check out the back catalog of over 100 episodes exploring the world's greatest startup stories, like last week's episode with Zaid Rahman at Flex on building the AI-native private bank for middle-market businesses across the US, and tune in next week for a conversation with Jason Calacanis, host of the All In podcast. Now, let's talk to Stephen after a quick word from Numeral. This episode is brought to you by Numeral. Numeral is the fastest, easiest way to stay compliant with US sales tax and global VAT. It's easy to set up, and they automatically handle all registrations, ongoing filings, and their API provides sales tax rates wherever you need them with all the integrations you need. Numeral supports over 2,000 customers in both the US and globally, and they pride themselves on white glove, high touch customer service. Plus, they guarantee their work, and they'll cover the difference if they mess anything up. They're fresh off a fundraise, closing a $35 million Series B from Mayfield, which they're going to reinvest into building an even better product. If you want to put your sales tax on autopilot, check out Numeral at their new domain, numeral.com. That's numeral.com for the end-to-end platform for sales tax and VAT compliance. Stephen, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Turner. Good to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you. It's good to, I think I'm going to pronounce your name right in the recording that we just played before this, the little intro segment. One thing I can pronounce, though, is Liveblocks, which is the name of the company. That's pretty self-explanatory. Can you just explain really quick what it is for people who don't know?
Yeah, sure. So Liveblocks is an infrastructure, collaboration infrastructure for people in AI. And so think about Figma or Google Docs or Notion. We basically enable you to build collaborative tools, like those tools that I just mentioned. So if you want to have like comments, notifications, or real-time editing and see the live cursors, that's basically what we enable other companies to do. We give you all the building blocks to rebuild those kind of experiences. And one big area we're focused on now is treating AI as a collaborator. So how can you integrate AI into an existing product so that it does behave like a human would? So you can actually mention the AI, and then the AI goes on and is able to actually do work like a person would. So yeah, that's basically what we do at Liveblocks. And yeah, happy to dive in more details if that's helpful.
No, I think that's good. I think we'll cut the recording right there. Good episode.
Yes.
So like, how does that work in practicality? Like if I want to incorporate AI into my product, just generally speaking, like what does that look like?
Well, generally speaking, it's very similar to companies like Clerk, for instance, and Clerk that do authentication. And I know you did a podcast with Colin recently. We basically offer a set of pre-built React components for specific collaboration features. And so if you need a commenting system in your app, we actually have pre-built components for that. So you can drop them into your app and quickly add, Figma-like or Notion-like or Google Docs-like comments into your product. So that's how you integrate it with it. In terms of AI, there are different ways you can do this. We do have an AI chat component that you can integrate, but we also have APIs that you can use to integrate AI directly into some of the other parts of your product, right? Commenting or notifications, or even enabling the AI to actually change or edit a document. That's something that you can also do with Liveblocks. So that's a slightly different type of integration, but that's basically how you would do it. So developers are basically our users. Developers end up using the Liveblocks APIs in their product.
Because don't you need to like integrate with all these different models and stuff too? Like, do you kind of do that, or how does that play out?
Yeah. So right now, you basically have a way to configure what we call AI copilots inside of Liveblocks. When you do that, you can pass in an API key from either OpenAI, Claude, or whatever model you want. And then we handle kind of all the orchestration for that. So that's one way you can do it. One thing we're focused on now is enabling people to also integrate with more of those like agent products, such as like CrowAI, LangChain, NIA, I think it's pronounced. I forgot exactly the name, but
N8N.
yeah, NIA. Yeah. So that's also another way you can do it with Liveblocks. So there's different ways you can integrate with that. So we actually don't provide the AI models themselves. We basically provide the interface. Our expertise is around the interface and the end user experience that we provide to enable people to collaborate with AI. And you can basically hook that to whatever model you want, whatever agent that you've built yourself.
It's kind of almost in a way how Stripe works, where it's like we build like the checkout for you, and then there's like all the different payment methods underneath the checkout.
Yeah, it's very similar actually in that sense. Yeah, pretty much. It's a different vertical, of course, but yeah, it's an interesting way to think about it.
What have you been seeing in terms of how either hopefully your customers, but also like hopefully all these people are your customers, but the way that people are starting to use AI in products beyond just, it's chatbot, ChatGPT, whatever. Like what are some interesting ways you think the AI is starting to show up in software?
Yeah, that's a good question because to me, basically I've seen a lot of companies. I've seen every company has a ton of money to spend on AI right now, and they've invested a lot over the last couple of years. What I tend to see a lot of those companies do is sort of bolting on an AI chat somewhere in a corner or like a very specific part of the app and calling it a day.
That's not good.
I don't think that's good. No, I don't think that's good. I think this is requiring a lot of people to learn how to interact with this new interface, right? You have to go to a new part of the app, chat with this AI, and it's kind of like separated from everything else. So I feel like this kind of experience is quite broken. And in many ways, people are already used to ChatGPT, Claude, or whatever model that they're already using on the side. And so what I'd like to see, and even myself, I don't know about you, Turner, but like I personally have like a ChatGPT tab, and that's where I always go to. I'll do a lot of back and forth, like copy data from like a product that I'm currently using, paste it in, and like sort of resolve that stuff myself. That's how I collaborate with AI today. So a lot of companies have tried to replicate that model and sort of like bringing a worse version of ChatGPT inside of their product in a little corner. I really don't think that's the right UX. And from the people that we've talked to, the companies that we've talked to, they're not seeing a great ROI on this, to be honest. What I'm seeing now, and it's something we are enabling at Liveblocks, and this is already something we use at Liveblocks, is really treating AI like a collaborator. And what that means is being able to access AI wherever you're already doing the work. So what that means in practice for us, it's basically being able to mention AI inside of Slack, for instance. So you may have some feedback from a customer in a shared customer channel, or maybe you have feedback internally from somebody on the team. Just being able to add mention an AI engineer, for instance, to be able to fix a bug or fix something that somebody shared with you right from Slack with the right context. And then having this AI create like a linear ticket, a linear issue about this, and then having the actually doing the engineering work and submitting a PR for that bug or that issue that you're solving. To me, that feels more like the way you should approach AI to be successful with AI, because you're not forcing your users to learn a new pattern. They are using the same patterns they've been using for years, collaborating with other humans, basically. It just feels natural, and that's basically what we want to enable companies to do, right? We want to give them all the tools and APIs to enable those kind of workflows inside of their product. That means being able to mention an AI inside of the comments to give feedback about whatever thing you're commenting on. Being able to mention AI in like a text document directly, so that the AI is able to actually do work like a human would. I do feel like connecting AI in that sense in various parts of the app from a collaboration standpoint is the way to go. And that's what I'm starting to see a lot of like world-class companies do. This is something you're starting to, like, you're able to do this with linear, for instance. That's really good UX. And I'm seeing a lot more companies kind of following that pattern. So that's what I'm seeing right now. That's how we use AI efficiently internally, and that's how we want to enable companies to use AI, or enable their users to use AI in their product.
So it's almost like instead of you're meeting people where they're at, like you don't have to change an existing use case, where you're almost like, instead of mentioning like a human, like the human engineer on the team, like, hey, here's a bug, read this thing, here's the GitHub, whatever, like click it, read it, go fix it. It's actually like, hey, just AI, exactly what I just said to the human, but like you do it instead.
Exactly. I really think this is the way to go. We use Devin internally. Devin is this kind of AI engineer. So you ping Devin, and then Devin is able to actually do the code, and like then you can review it. That's like a really great way to do it. Another pattern that you tend to see that's like following this model is Linear. Linear has built like their own version of agent that you actually create. You can actually ping Linear, and then an actual AI engineer can be tagged within Linear. So like there's different things that you can enable, like depending on the workflows and how you want to do your own processes at your company. That's what I'm saying. You also see like there's a similar pattern with code reviews as well. So typically when you build new products, at some point you need to get your code reviewed by some other engineer. Vercel built their own bot, right? So that they can actually start reviewing pull requests and suggest changes like an engineer would. Cursor has a similar behavior as well. And so it's exactly what you said. It's like, meet users wherever they are, because that's just great UX, right? You're not telling people to learn a new pattern. You're meeting them where they are, and like not just where they are, like in the way they actually used to work. And so that feels very natural. There's nothing else. There's nothing new to learn. It just works basically. So yeah, especially when there's a paradigm shift like this with AI, I think that's quite important, nailing that UX and making it super easy to adopt. That's the key to success with AI.
Yeah, one interesting thing I feel like, I don't know if I agree with this, but a lot of people are like, the UI of software is going to change because of AI. Like the way, like, it's all going to be a chatbot, or it's all going to be like fluid or something like that. But it sounds like almost what you're saying is actually the way we interact with this is actually going to like continue to meet us where we're at almost. I don't know if that's like a good assessment or what you just said, or maybe somewhere in the middle.
Well, I don't know, to be honest. I can't really predict the future, but I don't know how many times I've heard people tell me like, oh, UI is going to change. Like you won't need an interface anymore. We'll just talk to robots and then we'll be done.
Yeah. Like a neural link will be like directly into our brains with like the LLMs. Who knows?
Maybe, I don't know. Like it's hard to tell. Maybe things are going to evolve in such a way that, I don't know. Maybe AI is going to get so smart that they're going to guess everything that we want to do. But I don't know. Like to me, I see it more like the way we've been working with people and collaborating with people as humans. Like to me, that's the right thing we want to replicate, I think, with AI to make it easy to adopt for people. We know how to talk to another human. We know how to do that conversation. We know how to ask something from another person. Training AI like another entity that can do work and collaborate with you is what I see working. Everything else that people have tried that I can think of, I don't know, hasn't yielded the results that people expected, I would say. I think chat is a great way. Like I use ChatGPT all the time, don't get me wrong. And like sometimes with ChatGPT, I use voice, for instance. Like typically I don't really use voice that much.
Yeah. Well, because there's this dynamic with voice where I feel like if you send someone a voice message, you are saying that your time is more valuable than theirs, because I might have like a 30-second thing to just say, and I just send it to you. And if I would have typed it, it might have taken me like a minute or 2 minutes to like type it specifically. And I might have to like edit it to just make it like concise. And it would take you like 2 seconds to read it, right? Like you can just read, there's like 100 words or like 200 words. You just read it, 2, 3, 4 seconds. But with voice, it's like, and I might have been like, actually, no, never mind. Like, I actually changed this, but never mind. Like, the first thing I said, like, disregard that. So it's like a 2-minute message, and you're just like, it took you 2 minutes, or 2 minutes to like hear it. So, like, I'm saying that, like, my time is way more valuable than yours, which is like maybe true in a lot of cases, but also with AI, you can just be like, listen to this.
Do you use voice notes, Turner?
Sort of, not a ton. It's usually if I want to send someone like a pretty long message and I'm just like, this is going to take me like 30 minutes to like polish this thing and I'll just send you 3 minutes. Yeah, it's kind of like a weird in between of, call, should this be a text? Should this be a meeting? Like, should this be an email type of thing? But it's big in Europe, isn't it? Don't Europeans generally send a lot of voice messages?
Yeah, I moved back to Europe. I mean, I live in Paris now after living overseas for 10 years. I was in New York before and Sydney. And I'm shocked. Everybody's sending voice notes here. So I'm starting to send voice notes myself because you just that's what you end up doing. But like, it's helpful. I think like sometimes it's easy, but you're right. It's like, I'm too lazy. I'm just going to record myself. It's going to be easier for me. But on your side, maybe it's going to take you longer to process whatever I'm saying. But yeah, I feel like AI is like actually pretty good at, when you're talking about something quite complex, I think voice is quite good because you can go in sort of rabbit holes and like the AI is actually pretty good at resonating about that stuff. Versus if you had to like think about how you're going to structure the prompts in a way that sort of makes sense, that it's going to take you more time for sure. So,
well, and it's kind of, AI is like good at that. Like, if you think of like the note-taking software or whatever, like if we were like recording this entire podcast, it's like an hour long, whatever. And at the end, it's just like, it gives us like a summary that takes us 5 seconds to read of like a couple of bullet points. Like, the best way to incorporate AI in software is collaboration. Steven thinks that design is very important. He mentions at the end that he likes basketball and they talk about basketball or whatever we end up talking about here. Like, and you're like, cool, I got it. Like AI summarized it. I did a good job. I don't need to actually listen to this thing. So yeah, it's like, that's the superpower of this stuff.
For sure. But yeah, I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I'm a bit hesitant thinking like that everything's going to change. Like, sure, I think there's going to be some paradigm shifts. I think what I think is likely to happen is that a lot of the stuff we do in Google today, or like what we search, probably a lot of that stuff is going to happen in ChatGPT or Claude. And I think a lot of the browsing experience might even happen in the chat to some extent. Like, and you already see this by like, if you want to purchase some products, like having those products kind of being surfaced as like a component within the chat that you can quickly like see the item, like go through the photos of the item, like click buy now. And like, I think I can really see that future because like you're in that case providing a better experience, and a lot of people have already learned to kind of go to that chat interface. So it's sort of like meeting people wherever they are now. So it's still following this principle that we just talked about. So I do see like some changes happening there. And so a lot of companies will have to think about how to be visible in those AI conversations inside of ChatGPT or tools like Claude. So there's something there for sure. But I think this is more like an SEO problem more than a how to work with AI problem, I think.
Yeah, well, there's been kind of like a massive surge of sort of GEO startups. It's just like, it's like SEO. It's like search, for people who don't know. It's like when you check ChatGPT, you ask it a question, it's like the act of showing up in there. Like that is a huge thing that people are trying to solve now. And there's a dozen of these startups that are, I think at the time, like currently making a decent amount of money just helping companies show up in the search results. I don't know. If you look at historically how those types of companies have performed, like generally like marketing technology, they're hard businesses because it's hard to differentiate and you don't really like own the customer at the end of the day. Like Google and Facebook won online marketing, right? Like all these different tools that help you do marketing. It's like people spend majority of their time on Facebook and Google, and like they can they run the ad networks.
They know the algorithm is, I guess, what you're saying. So they sort of control what people end up seeing. And so like is that what you're saying? Like then the company's building on top of that, they don't have the full control. And so
well, yeah, and like Google can just be like, yeah, we'll give you these things for free because we own the real estate and you're paying us for the ads anyways. And we're just going to increase the prices 20% this quarter, and like you just have to pay them anyways, because if you want to reach people, we control the internet, and you won't reach these people if you don't pay. So, I mean, generally with like an internet-based business, whoever controls the distribution to like the end customer or the end consumer captures most of the value at the end of the day. So I think it's probably going to be the same in AI. It's just like a question of how much it shifts. Like, does ChatGPT cause Google to go to zero? Probably not. But does Google's market share go from 95% 2 years ago down to like 40%? That's possible. Yeah.
that's possible. Yeah. Yeah. That's super interesting. Like I've tried some of those tools and it's quite mind blowing the shift that has happened. Like I think for us, I believe ChatGPT is probably third or fourth in terms of, or maybe fifth, I don't know, but it's in the top 5 for sure in terms of like the traffic that we get on our website. So it plays a pretty critical part, like people asking questions on how to build, a commenting system or like a collaborative app like Figma. It's super important for us that we show up in those results because unlike Google, people can actually get started steps right from the chat. Like it's pretty big adoption and distribution funnel, I think, for moving forward. So
yeah, because I think I'm like kind of a boomer in this sense, but I sort of like with Google, you get all the links and you can like kind of tell what you're going to get from them versus with ChatGPT, like
sort of hallucinates, I guess, in some ways. And
yeah, but it also removes choice. Like it's just like this is it. This is what you must do. Versus with like the 10 links you get on Google, you can kind of see like, oh, this is from like this one website that I've used before and like I know I trust it. This one looks good from the preview. This one, it's like a Russian URL. It's like I don't trust it or something. You know what I mean? Like there's different, like I guess a little bit more of like metadata around the information that you're getting with Google.
I see you're getting more context before you actually click on the thing. It's interesting. I never thought about it that way, but that makes sense. Yeah. Well, yeah, with ChatGPT, which is kind of the main LLM that I use personally, I'm always cautious about like, I think this is directionally right, but like I don't have sometimes it does hallucinate quite a bit, to be honest. It does tell you things that are not true, or like even when you ask it for the source, sometimes it will tell you the thing, but like the source is actually not a real source or whatever. So
yeah, well, and one of the things that's kind of been like brought to light lately is that majority of this ChatGPT like sources is literally from Reddit, and who is putting it on Reddit? Like it's the company like saying what's the best search engine? Oh, Google. Google's great. You should go to Google. Or like what is the best food if you want to be really healthy? Like McDonald's has X amount of like nutrients.
Reddit plays a big part in like training the models. Like I started exploring a lot, like I forgot how you call it, the AI SEO. I forgot what.
GEO.
GEO, yeah. One of the best practice thing you can do is actually post on Reddit and post in a way that doesn't feel spammy, something that feels really genuine, because Reddit is actually pretty strict about that stuff. But like, that's how AI gets trained, and that's how you show up in AI results. If like a lot of people are giving your company or your solution as the solution for the specific topic people are asking for. So it's it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean it's like one of those things you do want to be genuine and honest as the company, and also as a consumer. You should be like, you should just understand. I think it makes it harder to vet stuff because it's hard to know who controls a Reddit account. Like I don't know if we should mention this on the podcast. Like the whole like Epstein files thing with Ghislaine Maxwell, his like secondhand woman. She was like a top Reddit moderator on like multiple subreddits. Did you know this?
I had no idea. For real?
Yeah. Like it hasn't been specifically proven, but there's been like the account that they thought she was linked to, it stopped posting the day she got arrested and like taken into custody. And it was like a top moderator and like top poster that like basically like gate kept Reddit.
For what kind of topics though? For like stuff related to
like world news, like shaping the narrative of like how people think about and discuss just like cultural and high level political things. And so, I mean, I think Reddit's great. I use it all the time. Like for sports, I like love getting information and like seeing people discuss things. But I mean, you do need to understand like a layer deeper of like where your information is coming from. And it's like, it can kind of be masked and, the sources can be muddied a little bit. So anyways.
I don't use Reddit much, but yeah, I'm more of a Twitter guy, but yeah, it's pros and cons as well on Twitter. So
yeah, I mean, Twitter's another one. It's like, you just got to know.
I mean, yeah, pretty big on Twitter, Turner. I feel like you're the meme connoisseur of VC meme.
Yeah, it's a good strategy. Memes are a good marketing strategy that a lot of people, I think people know that now, but
it works. Maybe we should do this for Liveblocks. I think like do a bunch of memes around. I don't know what the topic would be, but yeah, definitely works for you.
Yeah, one thing you've done a really good job just generally like marketing, and I think like launching products, generally speaking, like you get a lot of attention even though you're not really doing memes. Like what I think you've gotten a number one on Product Hunt multiple times.
I think we got number one once I think, and we got multiple times. We're in the top 3 or top 5.
So what's like a general framework for like doing well with a launch?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of thought about this. I think Product Hunt depends on your market. I've had launches where I was like, I think this was a lot of investment for not a lot of returns, but I also have had the opposite. So I think in our case, what's challenging with Product Hunt is that we are a dev tools company. And so developers are not necessarily on Product Hunt.
I feel like they're more Hacker News.
Yeah, that's more Hacker News or Twitter or Reddit even. And also like developers are allergic to marketing, I think, and marketing BS. They can really smell that. But still for us, I think it's important to be present with product people, which tend to hang out on Product Hunt. And so having some visibility there has been super helpful. So I think in terms of like being successful on Product Hunt, there's a lot of things you need to do. You need to prepare a lot in advance. So like you basically want to prepare what you're going to post on Product Hunt, like beautiful images that you're going to post there, a really nice demo video that's really well designed and put together. Prepare the right content. You want to also prepare like things that will sort of like create some type of buzz, especially at the beginning of the day. Because people that were listening, like the thing with Product Hunt is that it's basically happening at midnight Pacific time. So as soon as it's midnight, that's like the beginning of the launch, and it lasts for 24 hours. And so the first 4 to 6 hours are like actually pretty critical because that's when Asia is sort of starting to vote, and like then you get it to Europe. And so you want to make sure that that initial traction is there, because otherwise you're not going to be at the top of the list.
So you need to like get whoever is awake at 12 a.m. Pacific. So that's like India. Is that like India? Like it'd be like lunchtime for them.
You probably get, usually what I do, because for me, because I'm in Paris now, it's at 9 a.m. for us. So at 9 a.m. you typically get Europe. You also get evening time from Australia. So basically what I do every time we launch something, I have a list of like investors or like customers that really like Liveblocks, people from our community. And like ahead of time, I actually tell them, like, you probably got some of those emails, Turner, yourself.
Yeah, I get them all the time.
I'm sorry if I've been spamming you for this.
Do you set those up with like an auto sender, like, or are you like copy and pasting from a good Google Doc, or?
A lot of copy pasting actually. I tried to automate it at some point. I tried to automate some of that stuff, but it didn't really work, because I think when you automate things and you send it's like, then it turns into like an email newsletter. And so then your email is going to be in the kind of promotion folder.
Spam folder, whatever.
Yeah, or spam folder or something like that. So what I've done is either you BCC people, or you sort of DM them one by one. So what I've done in the last launch, and that's where we finished first, I actually DM people one by one, wherever they are. WhatsApp, SMS, Slack, email, and I keep track, and like I literally do that with hundreds of people. It takes me an entire day to do it manually. So
Yeah, so you have to figure out like, is it worth being number one? Like, do you get enough to spend an entire day?
but the visibility you get from that is definitely there. Like you definitely see an uptick in terms of visitors and awareness. So it really helps. It depends, I think, what your space is in. I think for DevTools company, it matters probably less, to be honest, because the end users, the people that can actually use the product, are not the people that are on Product Hunt. But for us, the people that are on Product Hunt, they're adjacent to Liveblocks. And so they're actually pretty likely to recommend us to engineers if you're a product person or a designer. If you see that what we push out is actually well designed and well put together, like I'm pretty convinced that people would then talk about it. And so, yeah, I'll probably still do it, but like it's definitely a lot of work and investment. There's another benefit I would say around Product Hunt is not just like the amount of inbound that you get from the people seeing that on Product Hunt or social. It's I find it good practice to have moments and marketing moments internally, because that creates a bit of urgency and momentum internally within the team to actually complete something by a specific date. And even if that is a little bit artificial, it actually enables you to move faster and also like have something worth celebrating as a team once it's done. So I always try to have like, I think about those things in terms of like, it's kind of like a heartbeat sort of, like you have like big launches, big marketing moments, and then like maybe you have like smaller updates throughout the year. For us, I always try to have like 2, maybe 3 max big, what I call big marketing moments, which turn out to be like Product Hunt launches or like big version updates or like launch weeks. Those tend to be big moments. But then you want to also have like in between those moments, you want to make sure you keep showing momentum internally. And so like having like blog posts and updates and things like that is kind of the framework I'm using internally. So I guess I went into this rabbit hole. So, but yeah, I hope that sort of answers the question.
I feel like you have a couple, like I think you're on Liveblocks 3.0, I think is so like 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, like how's the product kind of evolved over time?
Yeah, so we started the company in March 2021. So we're getting close to 5 years now. Crazy. Looking back. First version, so Liveblocks 1.0 Chapter 1 was very much focused on building a real-time infrastructure for developers. And what we offered was like fairly low-level APIs to build real-time applications like Figma. We had pretty good traction with this. But what we've learned is that if you wanted to build a Figma-like application or Google Docs-like application on top of that infrastructure and those low-level APIs that we provided, there was still a significant amount of engineering work to do.
Like creating like the actual like interface.
Basically creating the interface and all the like the patterns and UX on top of that infrastructure. The infrastructure was actually just a tiny part of what made those products great. And so that was a big learning for us, because while we saw a significant amount of adoption that enables to raise more money and continue to grow the company, we actually struggled to make this a decent business. And I think there was just way too much engineering work on top of this to really build an amazing collaborative product like Figma. So then we entered Chapter 2, and that's Liveblocks 2.0. And that's when we started shipping pre-built components for specific collaboration use cases. So we started looking at different verticals and like, okay, what makes a great collaborative software like Figma, Notion, Linear, Google Docs, etc. And what we find is that across all those products, they all had commenting system, they all had notifications, and a majority of them had a collaborative text editor piece in them. So what we started doing is, okay, let's actually build pre-built React components for comments. Let's do the same thing for a notification inbox. Let's do the same thing for a rich text editor that feels like Google Docs. Then when we started shipping those pre-built components, we've seen like a massive inflection in terms of our growth, because now those components enable developers to access all the infrastructure that we have built. But the time to value was just like shortened by a significant amount. And so if people were looking for like a specific use case, okay, I need a commenting system in my app with notifications so that when people are mentioned, they get notified. Or actually, I need something that feels like Google Docs or Notion. That's like a text editor. When I select text, I can leave annotations in context. I can do that kind of stuff. Now we sort of narrowed our ICP, but those people that needed this was like much, much easier to adopt Liveblocks. And so that was second chapter for us.
So it was like all the things that people were going to use the infrastructure for, you just built it for them so they could super easily roll out all the features instead of having to build it themselves.
Basically, instead of just giving a low-level infrastructure, what we started doing is like actually providing the interface on top of that infrastructure, which is a bit more opinionated. You can still customize a lot of that stuff, but it's opinionated and it does one thing really well. That really helped. And so now we're entering chapter 3, version 3.0 of Liveblocks. And this one is very much about leveraging all the stuff we've built to enable people to work together, but bringing AI into that story so that people can now actually collaborate with AI using very similar patterns, as I said earlier, being able to mention an AI inside a comment, being able to mention an AI inside of a text document. When the AI is actually doing work, being able to be notified when that work is done, wherever you are, in your email or in Slack or whatever the case might be. So meeting people where they are, we sort of building that infrastructure and all the orchestration for that.
I mean, is that really that hard? Like, why do you need Liveblocks for it? Like, couldn't you just like, it's like an at mention for a thing. Like, I don't know. What do you guys solve that's like that's so hard for developers?
Well, I think what's really hard there is like the UX and like making sure all the pieces work well together. Sure, you could build like, for comments, for instance, you could build a pretty basic commenting system yourself. But when you think about like enabling things like attachments, emoji reactions, mentions, making sure that when somebody is mentioned, the system is actually aware of like if that person has read that comment or not. So that when you notify that person, you actually don't spam them and like just you only send them when they need to actually see the notification. There's a lot of logic and things that make an experience feel really great. So when you start to add those things across comments, a collaborative experience where people can actually edit a document together simultaneously, there's a lot of complexity in those areas that basically using a tool like Liveblocks saves you a ton of time, right? First, when you go to market, but also the maintenance aspect of things after the fact. So yeah, our focus is very much on like making sure the orchestration is handled and works beautifully across the board. And I would say our expertise as well is around the end user experience. So we spend a lot of our time looking at like some of the world-class tools out there, like Google Docs, Notion, Figma, trying to sort of reverse engineer some of the patterns and things that they build and try to make that available for other companies so that they don't have to do that themselves and spend a ton of months, a bunch of like could take months or years kind of doing that yourself in-house.
You mentioned, so it's like Q4 of 2025 right now. I know back in 2024, you kind of started to get pulled towards more of like enterprise customers, larger, like more established products that were starting to use you. I remember when we first met back, you were like, oh, new startups are building on Liveblocks. And now you've kind of evolved into, there's still that, but now there's also like, I think there's a company that's like 40 years old that's a customer, right? So like, what was kind of happening over that time?
Yeah, definitely. I think for the last year and a half, we've definitely seen a shift going from like indie developers and like smaller startups to bigger companies kind of starting using Liveblocks. That was a huge learning experience for me because I've never really done enterprise sales myself. So yeah, I really had to focus on that, learn a ton. Still very much learning, but yeah, we definitely made that shift. And so that enabled us. Basically, one thing we wanted to prove is like, okay, is there a meaningful business behind Liveblocks? Like, can we actually sell to enterprise? And we've definitely checked that mark now. So Yeah, I took an advisor on the go-to-market side, worked with him for like 6 to 9 months, really helping me grow the revenue to, I think at the time, to about $500,000, which is not that much looking back, but
Significantly larger now.
definitely larger, yes. We've grown quite a bit.
Well, I think like a couple customers you maybe mentioned, I don't know who you're all allowed to say publicly, but I think I'm allowed to say them. You have people like Cisco, PwC, Rippling. I think Magic Patterns is like a kind of like a younger startup that people probably heard of. Typeform, I think, uses it. Resend. So what are like some ways? I don't know who you're allowed to like link up with the product. Maybe they can get mad at me for saying your name for saying their names. But like, what are some of those? Maybe some of those companies, some other ones. Like, what are some things that they've kind of done that people might be interested in?
Yeah, for sure. So like a good example, Rippling, you mentioned, they've recently released a one-on-one tool. So basically, Rippling is a HR platform, HR tech. And so they have companies using that, their tools, so that their managers can like handle one-on-one conversations where they're with their direct reports. They built this tool with Liveblocks. And so they have a Google Docs like text editor that's real time and multiplayer. So multiple people can edit it simultaneously and they can leave annotations and comments right there. Mention the people so that they get notifications. So they built all that stuff with Liveblocks. Magic Patterns, they recently raised the Series A. They built the entire product foundation on top of Liveblocks. So they have, for those who don't know, Magic Patterns is kind of like
Like a AI designing tool.
AI version of Figma, I suppose. Like it's a visual creative tool to build landing pages and apps visually on a canvas. They've built this with Liveblocks. So it's a canvas where you can collaborate. You can see live cursors with people when you're together in the same file simultaneously. They also integrated comments and notifications from Liveblocks in there. So if you have a specific feedback on like a part of a design or landing page that you put together yourself, you can quickly, add Turner, like, hey, can you change the color over here? And then, you'll be getting a notification. You'll be able to make that change on your side. So those are just some examples, and you can see like the breadth of the kind of customers we have, from like early stage startups growing and also like larger established companies like Rippling.
So one thing you mentioned I thought was interesting that we both kind of skipped over it, but you're learning how to do enterprise sales. I think that's a lot of things. A lot of founders, like average founders, probably somebody who's like, I don't want to do enterprise sales. Like it kind of sounds dirty. Like it sounds hard. Like it sounds like, I don't, it's hard to do. So like, have you kind of evolved as a founder in terms of like understanding how to do that?
It was definitely difficult for me because I'm a designer and I love making stuff. And so just learning how to actually make money as a business and like selling is actually
Yeah, big deal.
it's
It's the
actually
point of
quite
all
important
this.
as it turns out. So, but I think honestly I enjoyed it. Like what I love personally, like as long as I'm learning something new, like that's enjoyable to me.
It's like a general thing that you've got, like a framework you picked up on is like, oh, this specifically really helped me like learn how to sell a product to somebody.
For me, like I don't know if I have a framework. I'm not like a big framework kind of person, but I know myself enough that if I know I need to do something and learn something, the best way I learn is actually by doing myself. Like I need to do it. And so I try to put stuff in place to sort of force me to do those things, especially if those things are like not things that would come naturally to me. And so in the case of like go-to-market and sales, to really prioritize it and treat this seriously, what I decided to do was to actually work with an advisor and like literally have somebody join all of my sales meetings for like 2 months and then have like 2 hours a week blocked out with that person so that we could just focus on this and talk about this. And I knew that like by having a schedule in my calendar, it sort of forced me to treat the thing seriously, right? Because I knew I will have this meeting weekly. I knew I will be talking about it. And so it's like a way for me to kind of enforce that. I kind of need this enforcement sort of thing. Otherwise, sometimes I can like put things aside. And so that's what I did. I worked with somebody called Dakota. McKinsey. And he's really helped me kind of join those sales calls, giving me feedback after the calls so that I could learn. And then with them, we went through different pricing changes as well. We understood some of the pushbacks that we were getting. Honestly, that helped me build a better product with the team. Like, because some of the feedback I was hearing, like, helped drive the roadmap a little bit better than before. I think that before we were unconsciously sort of building something the engineers on my team wanted, or something that I would feel like I would use myself. But what we found is that when you start having more conversations with customers and true enterprise potential customers, their challenges and the things they want you to solve is like the foundation is the same, but there's like subtleties and differences that is what's going to enable you to win some of those deals. So that's how I've learned it. And I really wanted to grow that revenue myself at first before handing it off to somebody else. And so once we got to, I think 400 or 500,000 in AR, I ended up hiring Stacy. And she's been amazing. Like, she's been taking that on her plate. And I think you've talked to her briefly, but she's incredible.
Yeah, she actually gave me some ideas of stuff we should hit on in the podcast. So shout out to Stacy if she's still listening right now. I think she's gonna listen to the whole thing. So we have at least one listener that's still.
Hopefully more. But I'll test her. Maybe Stacy, if you don't listen to that point, I'll know.
Slack Steven right now when you're listening. Just to shoot a message. Well, so you mentioned it sounds like one of the things you learned from that, like those like 2-hour structures, like let's go back, is almost like listening to the customers and kind of like what they wanted versus what you wanted. Was there anything else that you learned that you like changed throughout this process, like how you evolved in your go to market motion or sales motion?
Yeah, definitely. And I'm still very much learning. And like I think I was giving away too much for a while. I'm just like, I don't know. I think I'm a nice person. I don't know. But I feel like because I hadn't done really sales before, like my natural default was like, yeah, sure, we can do this. I was trying to be really helpful in that. I thought that was always going to come back. That's true in some ways, but I do think you need to learn how to draw the line. And so understanding that dynamic of like where you draw the line and like making sure people see value. It's like, I give you something, you give me something. Like nailing that dynamic is something that it's more like an art than a science that I feel like I picked up. But at the same time, I would say that I've made some mistakes, to be honest. And like that's something I'm realizing now, like a year and a half later, maybe 2 years later at this point, is that because we focus so much on going towards enterprise, we've made some pricing changes and changing to the business model along the way that I think impacted what made us successful in the first place. And so as we went towards enterprise, we sort of made pricing changes and things that were more optimized to convert bigger customers. And I do feel because of this, there are probably some early stage companies or indie developers that maybe didn't even consider Liveblocks because perhaps they saw us more as like something for enterprise, or maybe pricing wasn't as transparent as it should be. And in retrospect, I don't think that's necessarily a mistake because we needed to do that to grow at the pace we needed to grow at. But probably, I'll probably do things slightly differently if I were to do them again. I don't know if that makes sense.
On pricing, is it just like there's too much of a like minimum kind of like check size barrier or something? Like you can't use it for free, or like if you're going to pay, you got to pay at least 10 grand. And
yeah, I think a pricing model like became a little bit too pricey for some type of potential customers. And so, I would say that's the big point. That's the major kind of factor there that impacted us. But that's also what enabled us to like increase the ACV on the enterprise side. And so now what we're doing is trying to shift a bit again so that we can have a really solid self-serve without losing on the enterprise side of things. And so that's a big project we're working on right now to improve pricing. Once again, I think pricing is never done, but I feel like this is something I'm quite excited about. It's really taking Liveblocks to our roots and making sure anyone can actually use this, whether you are a teenager messing around and building fun little side projects, or if you are a startup or a big enterprise. We want to make sure that Liveblocks can work for you, and want to make sure we can have a business as well on our end, so that we don't end up giving too much away for free. So that's something we're working on right now. But yeah, I'm quite excited about this, especially in this day and age. And I'm not sure, you're probably seeing this, Turner, as an investor, but the expectation now is kind of crazy. Like the growth that investors expect, I would say, when you're on the VC-backed kind of track. You see companies growing like from zero to tens of millions in ARR in like weeks, right? A couple of months. So I think the expectations, like when you have pretty solid growth, that would have been world class, 3-4 years ago. Now it looks kind of average, the triple, double, whatever. That's kind of average now. And so I think it's quite important to think about this, because I think historically the playbook was probably, okay, first you build a great product that people love. Maybe it's going to be for startups at first and SMBs. You probably grow the revenue to $1 million or $2 million an ARR. And from there, you triple, double. And that gets you to 100 million. And the way you would typically do this is by scaling things up. And scaling things up means, okay, you need to get into enterprise once you find product market fit. And getting into enterprise means hiring a bunch of salespeople, people that do marketing, and people that do solution engineering and customer success. I feel like that has changed a little bit, because that's like quite a significant investment to do this. And with a lot of those native companies, what's been shown is that you can get to like pretty significant growth and like fairly high revenue numbers without as many people. And so that's one thing I'm focused on right now. Like I want to make sure that we can have a business that scales in terms of revenue without necessarily hiring a bunch of salespeople. And that means having a really solid self-serve, I think, is way more important now than it used to be, I would say. But I don't know. I'll be curious to see what you think about this, Turner, as an investor. I don't know if you've seen similar patterns, or I don't know how your portfolio companies are doing on that front.
Yeah, I mean, I have one portfolio company that's probably it's always going up, but he's probably like around 8, 9, 10 million in revenue run rate. I don't know when exactly this will get published, and like you could probably fact check me and I'm going to be off on this number, but it's like roughly around that. And it's just the founder doing sales. The ACVs are pretty big. Like some of the ACVs, like 6-figure, he might have like a 7-figure ACV. I think that's kind of why the companies are scaling really quick, is because you can like get a 7-figure contract with someone. Like someone will pay you over $1 million to like solve this problem. And it's because a lot of the times with these like AI native product, they're like doing some work, and it's almost like not just like software budget, but labor budget in a way that kind of gets like woven into the product. So you are able to basically say like, hey, existing structure, the way you do this, there's like 10 people on the team, and this is like a $10 million budget line item. But with us, you only have to have 2 people on the team, and you can instead have a $5 million budget line item. And, some of it's people, some of it's software, or you still paying $10 million budget line, but like we're driving so much more like revenue to you because you're using our product. So like it's completely justified. Like the ROI is clearly there. I think there's some elements of that. There's also some elements of like, we have an AI innovation quote unquote budget, and like we just need to spend it. So like we have $100 million or $50 million to just like, so we'll spend $7 million or 7 figures on just like AI search or whatever. Hopefully that's not one of the categories, but maybe it is. But there's definitely some categories like that where it's just like we've got a budget to spend. And if you're a Fortune 100 company and you have like $50 million you just spend on AI, And if you don't spend it, it doesn't get spent. Like you'll just spend it on stuff.
We're already seeing this. Like that's where some of the big companies are like, some of them can spend like a significant amount with Liveblocks. Is like they see us as like this sort of AI budget like spend. And so
But that's bad. You don't want that, do you?
well, I think there's a lot of, like every big company, like especially the Fortune 500 companies, they have budget allocated for this because they are scared about up and coming startups taking their like eating their lunch, I suppose. And so, I mean, yeah, I guess you want that. What would you want that money?
I mean, you would want the money, but you want it to be tied to solving a problem for them and their customers.
It needs to be solving a problem, sure. Yes. Okay, I see what you're saying. So you were differentiating from like pure R&D project, like burning this money essentially, see what happens, versus actually your problem. Yeah.
Yeah, like you remember with like crypto and Web3, it was like, oh, we're a concert, we're a music company, and we're gonna like instead of publishing on like Spotify, it's like an NFT, and you like listen to the NFT and like stream it, and like some company probably spent like $1 million in like marketing, whatever. It's like no one cares. There's probably like 8 people that actually streamed the NFT music versus like the millions on Spotify. It's like what?
Yeah, I see what you mean. Okay.
So like I think like really to be like create enduring, like you want to create enduring value for your customers. Like you want to be able to say like, hey, we're using Liveblocks to like actually help you increase your revenue or make your product better.
Definitely agree with this. Like the point I was sort of getting at before was more like, sure, like you could do this. And I think the old playbook would have been, okay, if you want to, let's say you want to go from 1 to 10 million in ARR, like the way you would do this 3-4 years ago was by hiring literally 10 to 12 salespeople, assuming a 1 million quota per sales. And that's how you would scale, right, to those revenue numbers. I do feel like the expectations now is to have more efficiency as a business. And that doesn't necessarily seem the most efficient nowadays. Sure, you still need salespeople, like depends on your business, obviously. But my take here is that while I still want to grow the go-to-market team, I'd love to get more revenue from like self-serve so that we have a business that can really scale and like we don't need as many people to power that business behind the scenes. So that's kind of the direction I'm taking, which I don't know. We'll see if that's the right direction, but I feel good about it. We'll see how we go.
One interesting direction we kind of go from here. You're a designer. We've talked a lot about design. You've actually built some design tools multiple times throughout the years. What was it like sort of transitioning from being a designer to being a CEO, and just like why is design so important?
It's been a learning journey for sure. And I love learning. So that's been great. Like I wouldn't trade what I'm doing now for anything else. Yeah, I love building. I like making stuff basically. That's like if I were not working or doing anything, I'll probably still be making stuff. And I think humans were designed to make stuff. I think that's probably what makes us happy. Like when you create something for the people to consume, or I think we're creative creatures. And so, yeah, I personally really enjoy making apps. And like I found a pretty sweet spot in designing and building creative tools in the past, tools that people use to actually create something themselves. And so I found that quite interesting from a design standpoint because, yeah, those tools are quite like they're super interactive, and it's not like there's like a single flow of like you go from one page to this page to this page, and there's like a few different options, and that's about it. When you build a creative tool, there's like pretty much an infinity of options and states, and like that makes designing those experiences quite interesting. And so, yeah, I got into Liveblocks sort of by accident, I would say, or not by accident, but it's basically solving a problem that I faced myself while working at InVision. Figma was starting to become very popular, and I ended up leading design at InVision to convert InVision Studio, which was a competitor to Figma, from a desktop-based, file-based application to a browser-based app. And that's where I learned that building collaborative apps that were super interactive, real-time, multiplayer that was really, really complicated. And to me, it was obvious that pretty much most software moving forward should behave that way, because the browser is just the best distribution channel. It should just be all there. And like when you want to collaborate with someone, you just share a URL and you're together in the same space.
Because you can just be like, I made this thing in the software. Here's a link that I'm sending you, and you just click it and open it.
Instead of like in the past, you would have to like save a file, send the file to somebody by email. Sending the file can take time to upload and then for the person to download.
Yeah, by the way, you got to download the software too. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And then you would like, you have this artifact that you downloaded from like an email. You want to give feedback about it, change it, modify it. Then you have like this like sort of dead end entity that you created. You share it again, and like it creates all kinds of like dead ends. If you think about all the different things that you have, this thing that initiated here, and then like a bunch of different branches have like sort of emerged from this, like in different areas, and like trying to reconcile that stuff. It's just terrible. It's just a terrible experience for people to collaborate that way. And so that's why I think tools like Google Docs, Figma, and browser-based tools in general have been really successful. They solve a lot of that back and forth. And so to me, that's how I ended up starting Liveblocks, right? I felt like this was a big problem. Thankfully, I had met my co-founder at the time, Guillaume, amazing engineer that I worked super closely with at InVision.
Yeah. So what's the story about meeting him? I know it was you told me the story before, but how'd you guys meet?
Yeah, that's funny. I mean, I had been at InVision for about 4 years already at that point when he joined InVision. And his first day was actually at an offsite that we had in San Francisco, and spent a day together. And eventually we figured, I think I was the only French person at the company. And Guillaume was also French. So I was like picked that up pretty quickly from when I met him. But what was funny is like he asked me once, so where are you from? Like, where did you grow up? And I was like, oh, you wouldn't know. Like, it's a small town. Like, I grew up in the southwest of France. He was like, oh, wow, me too. I was like, but which town? Like, oh, you wouldn't know. It's like close to Toulouse, which is like the biggest kind of main city there. It's like, oh, me too. I was from there. And then we sort of narrowed it down, and we're basically like from the exact same region, which is like a super rural region of France called Aveyron. And yeah, it was funny. Like just the fact that we came from like a super like tiny area of France. Like it's pretty unlikely that you meet in San Francisco like this and we'll be on the same team and eventually go on and start a company together. So it makes for a good story, I think. And yeah, we just love working together after this. Like we often paired up on projects. And so because I love creative tools, and that's kind of my sweet spot, we ended up started building a presentation/video tool. And we wanted to make like a mix of like Apple Keynote meets like a video tool and like make that a browser-based experience like Figma.
So it was like a slide editor with video native kind of
like pitch, I suppose. Yeah, that's pretty much what it was. And the idea was to facilitate people, like make it easy for people to create those kind of interactive presentations, especially in a remote context, which at the time felt like the thing that was going to stick around, especially with the pandemic that was going on at the time. But anyway, like 6 months into that project, we realized we were spending all of our time building the real time and the collaboration infrastructure for that product instead of the actual tool itself. And that's when it clicked. I was like, dang, like we had a full team working on this for a year and a half at InVision and we couldn't pull it off. Like we pulled it off, but like the initial version was kind of average. It didn't work exactly like we wanted. It was kind of slow and buggy. And now here we are, just the two of us, like super focused, like, and we're spending all of our time trying to figure this out again.
Yeah, from scratch.
Exactly. And so we're like, damn, like, what if instead of building this presentation tool, we're actually building this infrastructure that would enable the companies to build Figma-like products? We would have needed that at InVision. We would have needed that as we started these companies. We felt, yeah, why not? Let's go for this. That's how we ended up starting Liveblocks. And yeah, I ended up being CEO. And obviously, I think CEO can mean a lot of different things, but I would say like at an early stage company, it's probably very different than when you've started scaling, right? I think where we're at right now, we're about 14 people on the team. Yeah, I see myself as like the person responsible for like really setting the vision, making sure everybody's aligned, making sure the morale on the team is making sure we have momentum. Those are the things I'm like focusing on. And I think there's a lot of similarities, I would say, between design and running a company in a way. It's like, I don't know, I think about design at its core is problem solving. And I think running a company or doing any kind of projects in life is about solving problems as well. So how do you design a solution that solves the problem you're facing? Whether that problem could be, okay, to build X, we need X amount of capital, X amount of people. How are we going to actually solve this? People are not really, like, the vision is not very clear for people. Like, how can I solve this? Like, maybe make it clear about like my communication style, the way we communicate about it, or like having some frameworks internally to make sure this happens. So like sort of designing the engine that ends up, a company is basically a tool. Like you're designing a tool that outputs something else. And so I find there's a lot of similarities. It's a bit more abstract, I guess, when you're running a company, but it's definitely interesting.
So design is not like how something looks, or like does it have pretty edges or something like that? It's more so just like how does a problem get solved for the person that has the problem?
It's definitely how it looks for sure, but it's mostly how it works and how it feels, and the sort of problems it solves. Like a given problem can be solved in many different ways, and like design is sort of the one solution to that problem. And so designing a company is like, every company is different. Every company is designed in a slightly different way, and a lot of those decisions come from the founder and probably the first 10 hires that you have on your team. Like they really shape what the company is going to look like.
Mm-hmm. What would you learn, or how did you learn how to be a CEO? Like, I know you've kind of had some side projects over the years. I don't know if you learned things there, or was it just like a slap yourself in the face of like, man, I got a team I got to run. Like, what did you kind of learn?
I'm not sure. I mean, always, like, even when I was 15, I think I had like side businesses. Like I was selling websites to people. Like I like making money, to be honest, from a young age. Like I like making stuff for people, and I always had like a business mind, I would say. So looking back, I feel like I always knew I wanted to have my own business. I started multiple side projects and smaller companies in the past. So I always has this thing in me. As to like learning to be a CEO, like, I don't know, because there were still like 14 people. So I think it's very different being a CEO of the 14 people company versus hundreds of people or thousands of people. I try to learn a lot from like the community, and like I definitely have some founders I'm really close with that are maybe a year, 2 years ahead of me, or some of them are like years ahead of me because they have much bigger teams. Like just to get their perspective, when there's always like new challenges and things that may arise, that it's pretty likely another founder has gone through this. So I found that having a founder community has been probably the most helpful, I would say, because those people, some of them have been going through similar challenges that nobody else really can relate to, I find. And that's something that has been difficult, actually, starting a company. Like people don't really, like, most people don't necessarily understand what you can be going through. And like sometimes things can be going poorly, and like, not that you have to pretend, but like you not pretend, like you can, like, I think it's good to like show, I actually think it's healthy to show some type of weaknesses, like that actually builds trust with your team. But like sometimes you kind of always have to be enthusiastic and like, yeah, we're gonna do this. Like I think you need to have this mentality, and that takes a specific kind of character, I would say. But yeah, having founders around has been insanely helpful. Like for instance, I'm working, like for me, like Jonathan from Maze, the CEO of Maze, has been like an amazing mentor to me. Like their team is probably 150 people now, and they've grown quite a bit. They raised a Series B like a couple of years ago, and they've gone through like many different challenges. And like talking to him has been particularly helpful because he's also a designer originally, and so like having him has been particularly helpful for me. Yeah.
So it's probably most helpful to get somebody who you have like some kind of a commonality with that's a couple of years ahead of you in the journey.
I think you can learn from all kinds of people, but I think having somebody that has the same sort of, somebody that cares about similar things to me makes it more relatable, I would say. But I have other founder friends that were like very, very like self-focused, and I still learn a lot from them because they have like a different mindset. Like they don't think exactly the way I think, but there's still a lot to learn there. That's why I'm trying to apply some of those things I'm learning, and like always try to be true to myself. Like I realize like, I don't know, sometimes it's easy to get caught and be like, okay, and if I'm a CEO, I need to act like this. I need to do things in a specific way because that's like what I think what I imagine a CEO should be doing. But I don't know. Like the more I grow up, the more I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna be myself and I'm gonna do things the way I think is right. And like that tends to work out better for me, generally speaking.
Yeah, it's funny. Like a lot of people think of CEOs, you're like in a suit in like an office in like downtown New York in a skyscraper, but
Right. That's what I thought it was in the past 10 years ago. Yeah.
you're just like on a laptop, like at a restaurant in between like meeting like a couple of random different people. Like you're trying to hire someone and you're also like in Slack commenting on like some feedback to a team member who's like working on something. And like, I don't know, you might be, or you're like, it's like a Sunday morning, you're like in your underwear, like sending something. Like it's like the least fancy possible thing you could imagine.
It is the least fancy thing so far. And like, yeah, you basically, all the biggest problems could basically end up bubbling up to you, I would say. So it's like, I mean, to be like, I don't want to over dramatize it because for me, it's been mostly fun, but I think I've been mostly enjoying it. Like, I really like it. Like, scaling the company, designing it the way I want, like, trying to create a really good experience, hire people that I would generally love to work with and like, and I end up working with. And like, I want to make sure people have, basically trying to like create a place that I would have loved to work at myself. That's really enjoyable to do. And like seeing people like, I feel good about like seeing people having a good time. Like to me, or like feeling proud about the work they put out. And like, that's something I'm quite proud about actually. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I want to ask you about that, just like generally like team design. You guys have like a remote distributed team, but one thing that you also, I feel it's kind of related to what we just talked about. There's a lot of other founders that are probably listening to this, and you talked about quite a bit. You guys had a really good relationship. He actually like stepped away from the company. Maybe it was about a year ago, which to somebody who's not a founder, like, and not familiar with how startups work, like that might sound like a death blow. Like a founder leaves, the company is over. I think it's like a little bit more common than people might realize. And a lot of founders who've never gone through that before might be like, yeah, that does sound fucking brutal. Like, can you just kind of like explain what happened and just kind of like how you kind of move forward as a company?
Yeah. I mean, that was honestly, I think probably the most difficult thing I had to go through personally. And to be honest, I think it was probably probably one of the hardest things to go through for Guillaume. Like I can't even compare like what he was feeling compared to what I'm feeling. But yeah, Guillaume was just, I think I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think he was not enjoying it as much running a company, and probably ended up doing a lot of things that he didn't necessarily enjoy. And so I think what he wanted to do personally versus what the company needed was getting to a point where it was misaligned, even if he was actually doing a really good job. Like it was actually amazing at his job. And so that was difficult, like, because it was his decision to leave eventually. And yeah, it was really hard to handle. Like, there was a lot of things. Like, obviously, our relationship first is difficult. You know, even if we're really close, like we're friends, we're still friends. Like, we're in really good terms, which is amazing to see because a lot of founder breakups end up not in the similar spot. But there's a lot of things to handle that were quite difficult for me. Like, basically, when that happens, you sort of have to think about the future of the company, and like you want to, there's an equity piece aspect of this. Like, you're basically sort of negotiating. You want to make sure like everybody on your cap table is happy about the outcome that you end up with. one of the founders is sort of negotiating from them. I was negotiating for the stakeholders, for myself, for the team. There's a lot of like parameters there that are difficult to manage. Communication aspect, like making sure you involve investors properly so that they are aware of what's going on. Yeah, I've learned a ton during like handling this, and that was definitely not the most fun thing that I had to do, but I'm really happy with where we landed. And look, like the company has never done as well as since he left. And I don't think that's because he left that we're doing better, but I think it was a good reset for the company, and like the projects that we went after, and I would say like the morale on the team, and like that actually we tried to use this to create momentum. And yeah, so that's basically sort of what happened.
Yeah, and it took you quite a while to just like find the right fit. Like you took over engineering yourself, we're kind of leading it, but you were able to finally find someone. Like, what's the process like of like bringing someone like that in and hiring your first kind of like new outside, executive for an early company like this?
Yeah, it was it took some time. Like just we actually, Matthias, the new head of engineering, started a month and a half ago. So it took us nearly a year when you think about it between like the time he started, this new person, versus when Guillaume left. Well, thankfully, our team, like being remote, actually, I made a conscious decision of pretty much only hiring very experienced people that most of them have worked remotely and I've worked with before. And because our team is very senior, and I would say the vision and where we headed is very clear, thankfully the team has been able like to continue to ship stuff, and like it's not like we had to go like in a completely new different direction or anything like that would have created a lot of chaos. So we're able to move forward and have a really good year. Yeah, with over 3x since the departure, and the team has been able to execute really well. So I think just having the right people in place and like being super transparent about what happened has, I think, really helped. Like I try to be as transparent as possible with the team and like tell them things the way they are, and they really stepped up. And one thing that I realized as well that I did not necessarily expect is I think when Guillaume was there, I think he was taking a lot of stuff on his shoulders. And by him leading, like by no means at that engineering level, like to be able to like do what Guillaume was doing. But what happened is that everybody stepped up on the team. And so even if at the beginning there were some areas where I felt like we're maybe a bit weaker than we were before, what happened is that some like the three most experienced people and even the rest of the engineering team, they all kind of stepped up and had to learn new things and like really show up. And I think we actually became a stronger team as a result of that, which was sort of counterintuitive and not something I expected. And then finding Matthias was like definitely like finding a head of engineering that really took a lot of time, especially building a dev tools company for like something that's very technical and that requires a specific kind of expertise. Yeah, it took forever. Yeah, that was really tough.
What ended up working? Like, were you just like cold emailing tons of people? Did you work with a recruiter? Like, did you work with Matthias in the past?
Didn't work with Matthias in the past. I mostly work closely with Alicia, our head of people at Liveblocks. That's another thing we can dive into if you want. Like we hired a head of people very early. Even I think we were like 6 or 7 people at the time, which is I think unheard of for most companies. That was a very conscious decision. But anyway, Alicia really helped me kind of. First of all, she helped us internally understand what are we looking for. I had an image of what I wanted in my head. Stacy on the go-to-market side had, thoughts and opinions about what we would need. The engineers on the team had a specific idea of what they wanted. None of those things aligned. like, I mean, there was some overlap, right? But like, if you think for like the perfect person, that person probably doesn't exist. Like if you like, it's like you're looking for a unicorn. It's like, I want an amazing, strong, like technical person that can do engineering work, but also want this person to be an amazing communicator and like being able to drive a vision forward. But maybe I also want this person to join some sales meetings because that's something that's quite important for us as a company. Also, as a founder, I want to find like sort of like a co-founder, maybe. I don't know. Like there was a lot of things that like when you put it on paper, that person doesn't really exist. Or maybe it exists, but like it would be very hard to find it. And so, yeah, Lisa really helped us kind of work together as a team to really write things down. What do we need? What are the priorities? And like make sure expectations were aligned so that we could have a good process to then find this person. Nevertheless, it was quite difficult to find this person. And I'm really glad we landed on Matthias. He has a lot of expertise in like AI modeling and stuff like that. Also has expertise working on like collaborative infrastructure and real-time infrastructure. He worked at Sketch for a while. And yeah, Sketch was a competitor to Figma, still is actually. And so there was a lot of challenges that we are solving with Liveblocks that he sort of had to go through himself as well. So yeah, but we talked to a ton of people to get there for sure.
One thing you mentioned right there was the importance of like finding somebody that slot into a remote distributed team. And we talked a little bit about that before, but like what have you learned kind of running? I don't know if like it's a successful team. I don't know how you like define success, but like seems like it's worked to some extent of like running a distributed company for multiple years that continues to have momentum. What are like some best practices for people?
Yeah. So first of all, I worked remotely for a while, even before doing this. And I worked at InVision, which was one of the pioneers in remote work. Fun fact, when I joined InVision in 2016, I was actually in Sydney. And most of my team at InVision was on the East Coast in the US. So I learned a lot of what didn't work there. I learned a lot about what worked there. And then I tried to use some of those learnings, the good and the bad, try to apply that to Liveblocks. So yeah.
Maybe what's the bad? What's the good?
Well, the bad, I think, like some of the things I learned at InVision is like, there was a couple of things that I think didn't work. Like when you work remotely, you probably want to have most of your people in a specific kind of time zone, or at least have a decent amount of overlap. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult. I clearly saw that this didn't work when I was in Sydney and the rest of the team was on the other side of the world.
Because you were literally like a 11-hour, 10-hour difference, something like that.
It was, if I remember, I think I tried different things. When I joined the company, I was like, you know what? I'm going to work in the evening and like, I'm going to go to bed at 3 a.m. and I'm going to adjust my schedule. I tried this for 3 weeks. I was like, I can't do this. I'm going to quit instantly if I keep doing this. So I shifted my schedule to start at like 5:30 a.m. or 6 a.m. Sydney time. And I remember 6 a.m. Sydney time was like 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. Eastern.
Okay. It's like it didn't even do that much.
Yes. So it's like people are finishing their day in Europe. They're gone already. So you get like a bit of overlap with people on the West Coast. So anyway, I learned that was really difficult. Another thing that I found is that at InVision, everything lived on Slack. So we didn't really have a central place where work would happen or like things were documented. That was another thing. And then I would say there was not, even if there was, maybe I joined like we were like 100 people. So maybe that was different. But I felt like there was not like, this is how we operate at InVision. This is our culture. This is how we do things. There were some parts of that, but I don't think it was truly, it didn't feel like there was alignment at the people that are actually doing the work in terms of how we should work and how the values that we should, principles and things we should follow. So starting Liveblocks pretty early on, I was like, okay, we need to be very clear on that stuff. This is how we work. Also knew that early on, we needed to hire somebody that would be sort of in charge, not in charge, but somebody that would really look after the culture and like the way we work together. And that's why I wanted to hire somebody there. And I ended up hiring Alicia. She's been amazing. Like, absolutely love working with her and like just enforcing culture and like in a way that feels natural. And like, I don't know, it's really helping because we're very intentional about the way we work together. And so one thing that we want is that we have clear, even if we are flexible in terms of working hours, we ask people to have 2 to 3 hours of overlap of work every day. So to do this, we typically hire only in Europe and East Coast in the US. We have one person on the West Coast, Jonathan, is in Seattle. I worked with him for like 4 years at Envision, and he works like different hours to accommodate for this. That's something that I think is very important. When you're remote, you definitely want to have some overlap every day, because if you don't, some decisions that could happen today will be made tomorrow. And that just, if you compound that over years, that kind of slows you down by a significant amount. So that's thing number one. Number two, you definitely want to spend time with people in person. So we have one offsite a year where we bring the entire company together. We just came back from Punta Cana, actually. We were there last week with the team. And we try to create a week where obviously we work in the morning and like find what are the things that we cannot do remotely to like align. We try to use this time to like build connections and make sure people get to know one another on a personal and professional level. Because once you know the people on a personal level, like it's much easier to work with them remotely. And so like there's like something that you learn. So that's number two. And then we also encourage people, like we actually have budget allocated for project teams. If they sometimes need to meet in person, this is something we encourage them to do. So those are things we do. And then our tooling, we use Linear or Notion. So we try to document things as best as we can so that we can actually onboard people more easily when they join. And there's a ton of things like that we try to follow. So
it sounds like a lot of it relies to like make sure that there's people, that there's like shared times during the day that everyone's working to just like have good sync, meet your team in person as consistently and like as much as you can, and just like spend time getting to know each other. And then sounds like people that are able to work autonomous. You may mention this earlier, but just like
to be at the end of the day, that's probably the most important factor. Like the most important factor is the kind of people you hire. Not everybody is made for remote. And in that pool of remote people, there's probably a good amount of them that are just there to just follow the lifestyle, I would say. But there's a pool of people in there that are like really passionate people that really want to do good work with other smart people. Those are the people you want to hire. But at the end of the day, it comes down to like the people. Like, are they used to work remotely? Are they experienced? And that experience piece is quite important, because if you just came out of college, I don't know if it's gonna make sense to join a company like Liveblocks at first, because like you probably need that initial experience in an office working side by side with someone to learn kind of the dynamics of like working at a company, right? And like I don't think you get as much of that at a company like Liveblocks. But if you have done this before and you have experience and you know what you want to do and you're want to do good work and you're passionate about what you do, then I think it's a good fit.
Yeah, that makes sense. Kind of lines up with what I feel like I've learned over the years. I actually have like a completely unrelated question, but I just know you like basketball. So I don't know if I've ever told you, I have season tickets to the Michigan University's men's basketball team.
I feel like I have to come visit you then. How many seats do you have?
It's just 2 seats, just me and my father-in-law. We actually have the woman who sits next to us, who has season tickets next to us. She has 2 seats, and like I think like her sister's supposed to come. She's like an older woman, but I don't think I've ever seen her have someone at the game. It's always empty next to us. So we talked about how we like buy the ticket from her. I think she's given us tickets before. But yeah, so what do you think is like the most underrated basketball player of all time, in your opinion?
Oh my gosh. The most underrated player of all time.
Yeah, because you could say like LeBron's the best or my MJ's the best, like whatever. I mean, that's probably the answer to that question. But like who you think's like most underrated basketball player, or like most underrated position, or like skill or something like that?
Oh, that's a tough one. I didn't think about that. I mean, I'm like, whew, that's a tough one. I don't know if he's underrated. I'm gonna be because I'm French. I grew up in France. I feel like a player like Boris Diaw was quite underrated. He played for the Spurs, and he's so versatile. And like having played basketball, like having versatile players is actually so helpful on your team, but also sometimes hard to fit them properly. So
This is Boris Diaw. Okay. Is he retired? Oh yeah, he's 43 years old.
he's retired at this point. Yeah, he's just drinking wine somewhere in France, chilling. Yeah. Who would be your most underrated player then? I'm curious.
To be honest, I don't really follow NBA that much.
I'm big into the Spurs right now because Wemby is just killing it. It's just having an insane season.
Yeah, I follow college a little bit more just because, I mean, I'm Canadian, so like I play hockey and like kind of follow hockey.
Oh, I didn't know you were from Canada. Okay, nice.
You didn't know this? I thought we talked about this a long time ago.
Forgot about it. No, I don't know.
I'm from Winnipeg, so I follow the Winnipeg Jets. It's like Winnipeg's in like the middle of nowhere in Canada. And I follow like the NFL, professional, and then college football. And I follow college basketball just because it's like the local sport. And I don't like going to football games. I just like, I don't like, because nothing happens. Like if you take the total time you're at a football game, it's like 3 hours, but there's only like 4 minutes of like anything actually happening. So I like watching football, but on TV, I don't, because like being at a game is just like, there's nothing happening. But basketball, like,
is intense.
Yeah. And if like you look away at the wrong time, you'll like miss something. Right. But with football, it's like, okay, cool. There's a play that's going to happen in like a minute. We'll talk to somebody. And then it's like, cool. Plays what happened. 2 seconds. It happens. And like, we get a minute to like not watch again. Like, right. So yeah, I'm trying to think of, I think to your point of like, I think like big guys that can pass. So like someone like Jokic, is that his name? Jokic,
but yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about him as well, but I was like, he's definitely not underrated, because he got MVP and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's why you win MVP, right? It's like you're somebody who can block a shot, but can also sink a three and pass the ball. Like it's just well-around, versatile players. Maybe like playing defense, I think is sort of underrated, just generally speaking, because like it's annoying as fuck when you're like trying to score and just like somebody just like won't give up. And like there's so many guys that are just like so good at shooting, like they're good at dribbling, they can juke you out and pass it, but like somebody who just like won't let you take a good shot.
Beverly, I think, is one of those guys, like people in the league like really hate playing against him because he's like,
isn't Pat Beverly, you said? I've heard of him, yeah.
But yeah, he's just like this smaller point guard, but like it seems so, I don't know, if I was that good, I would hate playing against him because it's just like, he would just be like running and going after you and be like, damn, just give me a break, But he has that reputation, so.
Because I feel like most people do not try as hard when they're playing defense. Like if you have the ball or you have the puck or like you're in a position to like make a play, everybody's going to try their best. But I feel like most people do not give it their all when they're playing defense. And like those people are so annoying to play against because like you're just not used to it. You're not used to somebody actually trying hard against you when they're playing deep.
That's a good point. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Well, so did you play basketball actually yourself, or?
No, I mean, I'm 5'6". I mean, I can't.
Well, you could be a point guard.
I mean, even today, no. Like, it's too short.
Yeah. I mean, you'll be all right. Probably not in the
How
NBA.
tall are you? Are you like 6'1", 6'2"?
6'4".
Oh yeah, 6'4". Okay. Yeah, I knew you were like tall, but damn, I didn't. I guess I
Yeah, but that's probably like a small point guard in the NBA nowadays.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I tore my ACL twice, so I'm just done with that kind of sport. But
yeah, isn't that kind of how you started your first business? Like you got hurt and you like had to basically.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Because you were a waiter, right?
Yeah, I was. That's a fun story. When I moved to Sydney in 2011. Joined a basketball team. Didn't know, I had not started my career for real.
Well, you were playing like professional or like semi-professional basketball?
Not at all. No. I was just playing for fun, like in the original, like pretty good level, but not like professional at all by any means. But when I moved to Sydney, I joined a basketball team. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with my life. I was just there like to travel and have fun. And so I just worked as a waiter and making some money there. But then I played a basketball game. Went up in the air, somebody pushed me, landed awkwardly, dislocated my leg completely. And that sucked because like it really hurt. And then I didn't know at the time. That was a terrible experience. But basically, because of this, then I had to, emergency arrived, put my leg back in place. I had to get MRIs. I had a bunch of medical bills stacking up. I wasn't sure how to deal with this because I was overseas, like to deal with insurance and that kind of stuff. I couldn't walk, so I lost my job. I was like, oh shit, like what am I gonna do now? And that's actually what really got me into this career, which is surprising me in retrospect. I'm like thankful this happened in a way, but yeah, I had no money. I had medical bills lining. I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna pay rent. So I ended up posting an ad on Gumtree, which is kind of, I forgot what the equivalent is in the US. It's called
Craigslist.
Craigslist, yeah, exactly. Yeah, within 2 weeks, I had like several customers and I was making websites for them, designing websites. They were happy with it. I realized I was making more money than when I was a waiter. And I didn't know at the time that I could have a career in this, surprisingly, because I love design and I love coding, but I wasn't sure if I was great at both. And so I like being that versatile person between the two, like I learned I could do something there. And then that's what actually got me to like the startup scene in Sydney. And then from there, ended up going from one startup to the other and starting different things. And that's what led me to eventually start Liveblocks. So anyway, I thought it really sucked at the time because like, damn, what I'm going to do? Like I had like probably had €1,000 or $1,000 in my bank account. And I was like, that's all I had, So
yeah, nothing like running out of money to light a fire and learn things.
Yes. Even when you start a business, I think when you're like feeling the pressure, it actually helps you in a way. So
yeah, this is a lot of fun. Thanks for coming on the show. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was really fun. I enjoyed the conversation and yeah, thanks for having me on then.
And I hope you had fun. Thanks again to Numeral for supporting this episode. Head to numeral.com to put your sales hacks on autopilot. If you missed it, make sure to check out last week's episode with Zaid Rahman at Flex on building the AI native private bank for middle market businesses. And tune in next week for a conversation with Jason Calcanis, going inside the All In podcast. If you like this conversation, please comment, subscribe, and name your next AI feature after me. If you don't want to miss a future episode, subscribe to my newsletter, The Split, linked in the description. Get each episode plus a transcript emailed directly to your inbox every week. Thanks again for listening. See you next time.